Okay, so let's start the game, and there are three things we need to look at each turn, and that is morale, random events, and initiative and actions. Now, you'll see in the rulebook it talks about the fact that it's unlikely if in the very first turn of a game that we would need to take morale. Why would we? Quite obviously. However, so that we can have a look in the rules, I'm going to say that we need to. So the unit which is closest to the Huey that's gone down, I'm going to say we've seen casualties there, and we're going to have to take a morale test to see what they do. So we're concentrating on this team here, and it's a unit which has skills of 4, and because they've seen this Huey go down, we're going to need to go down the table to see whether we deduct or indeed add some factors to see what the number is, and then we'll roll a d20. So we're going to do a morale test with these 4 men. We start with 4 for their skills and drills, and they're in soft cover, so that's a +1, so we've got 5, and then each of them can see their mate round the corner, as it were, so that's another +3. You get 1 for each of those, so we're up to 8. You get a -2 because they've seen a casualty from the Huey here, so therefore we're starting on a 6, and then we roll. So what we do know is that even if we got a 1 from the d20, at the very worst they're going to be suppressed, so a result of 1 to 4 would mean that they withdraw. It's not going to be that, so 5 to 12 will be that they are suppressed for that particular turn, and 13 and above they'll be fine. So we're rolling for each man, so there's 4 men there, so the one nearest to the Huey, it's a high number, so he's fine. The one nearest to him, and we've got a 2 there, so that person's suppressed. 2 more men, another 2, so another is suppressed. Finally, with a 12, we will add up to 18 in total, and so 2 are suppressed and 2 are fine. What does that mean for the game? It means the 2 men, where I've just marked with a down dice, it means that they will only get 3 actions to do in this particular turn. They lose 1 action, and they also can't move, so they're prone, and they've got 3 actions for the rest of the turn. We've done our first roll, if you like, had a look at morale, and that'll obviously be more obvious in the subsequent turns. But let's have a look at the second element, and that is random events. Okay, so the next phase is that we have random events. Random events take place once a turn. There are occasional additions to that, but we do that as our second part of each turn. Now, on page 28 there is a long list of examples, but the idea here is that it's giving you all various different options, and later on in the book it talks about encouraging different types, but all the way through it suggests that you make your own. So I have done here, and I've set these options, these random events, based on this particular table. So there's all sorts of different things that could happen here, so I'm going to use an example in a second. But also you'll notice is that I've only filled in 10 of the 20 potentials, and what it means is that when I roll on the ones where it's a blank, nothing happens, and if something takes place on the other numbers, I cross it off, and so if that number comes up again, that'll just be nothing happening. So simple stuff here. So for the purpose of this, I'm going to roll on the ones I've put on here. So what do we get in terms of numbers? And we've got number 17. Right, 17 means there's a sniper. Okay, so any United States soldier who's out in the open, it takes an automatic hit. So let's work that out so we can see what happens from firing. So I'm going to pick out the second man there, the man in the middle. He's taken a hit. So, if the man there in the middle has been hit, the one by the dice, we need to roll. He's got a flak jacket on, and we use this table here. So, this is the infantry table. We've got the back, injury table, I should say, for infantry. And what we've got is the sniper's rifle there. So, again, we roll a d20. Now, he's got a flak jacket, so we take 3 off this roll. The roll is 16, so it takes it down to 13. However, killed between 11 and 20, so therefore it's a man down. Now I'm just going to mark the fact that that man's down here. I'll take it off normally. But these 3 men are now affected, as they've seen it, so we need to have an immediate morale test. So we're doing so because we've had a man who goes down close to them. So all 3 there, I'm going to roll them individually for each one. So we start with 3, that's the skills and drills level. The pluses are that each of them have 2 men close by within 6 inches where the men aren't suppressed or injured. So that goes to a plus of 5. But we lose 2 because we've seen a man down, so therefore the starting figure that we're at is 3 plus all the rolls. So we're adding 3 to each of these rolls, right? So the guy who's at the front, point man. Okay, so we've got a 12 plus 3 is 15, he's fine. Man in the middle, so this plus 3 makes 23, so he's absolutely fine. Finally, man at the back, this plus 3. This is a 6 plus 3 is 9, which means he is suppressed. So across the whole group, it means that there are 2 men who are fine, and the one at the back there is suppressed. It means he doesn't move for the remainder of this turn, and he loses 1 of his 3 actions. He can still do things, but as I say, he's suppressed just for this turn. We've now looked at the start process of morale, and at the next stage with the random events. So the third is to look at initiative and actions. Now you can see here that we've got 4 dice, which is the 4 different units that we've been following all the way through. That's of the NVA, and we've got our Americans here, which have been impacted, taking their first casualty, and also the morale test that we've taken. And we now need to see about who operates next. And the first thing we need to test is the initiative. So we do so by taking individual units and putting them through essentially a contest with the next opposing unit. So what I mean by that is that if we take, for example, our unit over here, the one that's taken a casualty with its skills and drills of 3, I'm going to roll a dice against the initiative of the unit furthest away here. So it's this unit, this unit of 3 for the NVA, which has a skills and drills of 4. For initiative, all we're doing is we're comparing one unit to the other. So we have the Americans to start off with a 3, plus we add that. That's a 5, so we've got 8 in total. And the 20. So very simply, that the initiative, the first action is going to lie with this unit. I was almost caught out by this myself. This is the action. So the action points that you get if you have skills and drills of 4, you get 4 actions. But if you have 3 or 2, you still get 3 actions. And if your skills and drills is just the 1, you have 2 actions. Now with the unit over here, if you remember, it had 4. So there are 4 actions that it can take, and we need to calculate what these actions are. So there's a whole mixture here on this table on page 31, but I'm going to try essentially to move forward. So for this unit of 3 men, I'm going to say we've got 4 actions. To run is 1 action. Now I'm going to say that we're going to try and dodge the very difficult ground, and so we're going to have it's the slightly difficult ground, and therefore we can move 4 inches at a time. I'm going to use 3 actions to go a total of 12 inches, and then with the other action I'm going to go prone. So when they're in position here, they'll be moving into whatever cover they can find, and that's where they finish. This time I'm going to try and move this unit, and again I'm going to try and move this American unit. So in terms of skills and drills, it's 3 each. Let's try the Americans first. That's a good number, I think that's 15. And it's 12 for the NVA, so it's the Americans this time. Now, unlike other war games, this unit here, the one that's going to move, what I haven't done is to remove the figure that's been killed, because we aren't looking at things just like a calculation of how many units can fire, etc. Instead, we want to make it as realistic as possible. And as a consequence, it means that what we're going to try and do with these units is that the 2 men who aren't prone are going to go and try and get their buddy and move him into some kind of cover. They may not know that he's been killed, but in terms of a realism, those are the actions that they're going to undertake. So let's calculate how many actions that uses and what happens next. So to walk you through the process, what actually happens is the 2 men who are in good shape, the first action they'll do is to talk. So talk to each other. They're going to go to the prone soldier to pick him up. So that's 1 action. The second is to move, so that's 2, and the third, when they get to him, is to drag him across into cover over 3 inches, and that'll be the 3 actions. And if you remember, we had the last man here who was prone, but he can still use his actions. So with the 2 actions remaining, he will go on Overwatch. Okay, so we've now had 1 action for both sides. So to speed up the process a little, I'm just going to mention what the other 3 units of the Americans and the NVA are intending to do. So we've got these units, we've got the leader of the section here on 5 and the unit behind them. So those 2 units are looking to move relatively slowly up along the side of this river and take up the cover they can get, and with the unit that's next to the Huey, they're going to try and set up some kind of cover. On this side, the NVA are looking to advance on the left hand side, and one of the units is to set up some cover in this dense area. So that's the intention. So I'll move so the advance of the NVA almost mirroring that of the Americans, but this time on the left hand side so that they can take these buildings. So for initiative, let's start with the unit with 5 there, which is the American leaders of the unit. So it's the NCO, and we're going to compare it with the unit there, which has 3. So the initiative is 5 to 3. Americans first of all. What have we got there? I think we've got a 9. So the Americans have got 14 in total, and they go first. Okay, just to show a bit of scale. Firstly, the unit has moved 9 inches. It's 3 actions. It's 3 inches is the move on here, and it's been moved across by the 2 men. 4th action is that the officer is talking to the man behind him, and to do the 5th action, which is to go prone. We're going to have this unit move again in a similar direction for the NCO up on the side of the river, and comparing with the same NVA, so it's 4 against 3. Americans first of all. That's a good number, so that's 17. That can't be beaten. This unit has 4 actions. It's used 2 to walk. It's 6 inches in total. Again, also talked, and they have also gone prone. Finally, this unit here, we've got 2 men who are prone, but it doesn't mean that the other 2 can't act. So again, this will be 4 against 3. Americans first of all. low number. I think we've got 4 there, so we've got 8 in total, and the NVA certainly successful. This unit has moved into the very dense jungle. It's going to get itself into a firing position, but at the moment it's used all of its actions to get into this position. Let's try again here. The Americans this time 4 against the NVA with 2. Americans, that can't be beaten, so they'll operate. So these 2 men go prone and are also on Overwatch. Now all the Americans have moved, but it doesn't mean that these 2 units don't, the 5 and the 2. They will move, it just means that they're moving at the end of that turn. The initiative had been driven by the Americans. Now this is where the NVA have moved to. And as a result, that's the end of a complete turn. So what's happened? The Americans have been tested for morale right at the start. We saw Huey go down, and as a consequence we had troops who were prone. As a result, they were suppressed by seeing this hit. We've then tried the random events. We had a sniper, so we had from somewhere in this direction we had the NVA firing, and the sniper fired, killing an American. As a consequence, with the subsequent actions, we then had a unit move their buddy out of the way, make sure to try and get him into cover. We had other units going on to Overwatch, and as far as an attack is concerned, we've got the Americans advancing here on the left hand side. As far as the NVA are concerned, well, they've got another unit at the front here. It's going to be giving some kind of covering fire, and then we've got 3 units behind them moving on the left hand side and beginning to infiltrate into these buildings. So that's a full turn, and the next phase is to follow that up and see what other actions might take place in turn 2. Now what I'm going to do is for the next stage of this, I'm going to try a couple of additional elements and put out the use of a helicopter. So I'm going to steer the way that the random event goes, and also so that we can get an understanding about how other elements of the game work, I'm also going to bring in some vehicles.